Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to talk about how to analyze mocks like a pro. So let's say you have taken a mock. What's the first thing that you see after you complete the mock? Well, you see the total score, the verbal score and the quant score, right? So once you look at these scores, the first thing that you should do is try and understand how close you are to your target score. So let's say your overall target score is 740 and you are looking at a split of V41 and a Q50. So based on your score that you've got in the mocks and your target score, you should understand how far are you from your target score. So for example, you're 100 points away from your overall score. You need to improve by at least 9 points in verbal and 5 points in quant to be able to reach a 740. Okay. Now why should we understand this? The reason we should understand the difference is because that will help us decide in which section do we need to focus more on. Should we focus more on verbal, should we focus more on quant, or both of them require equal attention? Now in this case, verbal you need to improve by 9 points, that's slightly higher. So our major focus should be on verbal. Obviously in quant also we need to improve by 5 points. So I would say the level of importance would be a 60-40, where 60% emphasis should be on verbal, 40% emphasis should be on quant. Okay. The next thing is to decide how do you analyze where you need to improve. Now this is where I've seen students face the major problem. They don't know, after taking a mock, how to analyze a verbal section or a quant section. But unfortunately, if you look at the official mock, the problem is that they don't provide much of an analysis, right? You get the number of correct, incorrect, but you don't know what is the difficulty level of the question, and you also don't know the amount of time that you have spent in each question. So analyzing an official mock at this point of time doesn't make much of a sense using that mock. Now, for the sake of this discussion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take up a mock and show you what are the parameters that you need to look at when you analyze each section. So let's start off with that first. Now, whenever you're analyzing a section, let's say quant or verbal, the first thing that you should look at is your topic level analysis. That is what you should do. Okay. Now I'm saying first, second, third, fourth, but keep in mind that you can do this analysis simultaneously also. But these are the parameters that you should definitely look at. So you should do topic wise analysis. You should do difficulty level analysis. You should also look at something which most students call as silly mistakes, but they're not silly. And I'm going to talk about it in detail, don't worry. And the fourth thing that you should look at is your pacing. How have you paced during your exam? Now, what do I mean by topic level analysis? So if I just show you a screenshot of this, you would notice that in topic level, when I say topic, I mean weekend, strength, miscellaneous, and these kind of things. So ideally, you should see what are the mistakes that you have made. In which topics have you made a major amount of mistake? Like in CR, I can see the student has made a mistake in weekend. In SC, I can see pronouns. RC, I can see main point. So you should try and understand the areas of improvement. What are the areas where what are the topics that you are not doing well in? Okay, so that is what I mean by topic level analysis. Now, once you've analyzed the topics that you're not doing well in, you should make a note of it. So for example, and this is just hypothetical, but what you need to understand is you should jot down the topics that you're not doing well in. Okay. So in SC, maybe you might not be doing well in modifiers. In CRs, there might be 3 topics that you might not be doing well in. And in RC, maybe main point and inference are the areas that you are not performing well in. Okay, so the topic level analysis will help you understand in which module you need to focus more on. So for example, in this scenario, I would say, hey, CR looks something where it's a dicey, the assumption family is something that you're not really good at. Focus on CR and maybe you'll be able to boost your score more. Another common pattern that you might be able to look at when you do topic level analysis is, let's say you're not good in inference in CR as well as RC. That means you need to focus on inference. Maybe improving inference CR would definitely help you improve your inference in RC also. Okay, so that is why we always advise to do a topic level analysis to understand these patterns. And simultaneously, what you can do is you can also look at difficulty level analysis. Try and see the mistakes. Where are you making mistakes? Okay, what kind of difficulty level are those questions where you ended up making a mistake? So for example, if you're making a mistake in easy question and you realize that, then there are 2 possible reasons for it. Either you might be making a mistake because the concepts are not clear. And well, if your concepts are not clear, then obviously the recommendation is that you need to revise the concept or go through the concept and then practice questions on it. And the other reason is, as I called, silly mistakes, but more on this later, don't worry. So if you're making mistakes in easy questions and if the concept is not clear, you need to revise the concepts. Now, if you're doing reasonably well in, say, a particular section, let's say in this case, quant, you had a 45. So most probably most of the mistakes you might have made were in difficult questions. Now, one possible reason for it could be that you're not good while applying the concepts. You're not really methodical. Maybe you are not really good at simplifying or translating questions. So that means you need to focus on sharpening your application level skills. Now, one way to do it is to practice more 650 level plus questions. The other way is, which is not mentioned here, is to go through video solutions given by experts and see how are they methodically solving questions. That's a good way to improve your application level skills. So segregating it in this way, topic level and difficulty level, you'll be able to understand which kind of topics you need to work in. So for example, in inference, if you're getting easy questions of inference wrong, okay, in both CR and RC, you know that your concepts are not clear and you need to work on the concept first before moving on to the questions. Okay, let's say, for example, if you're making mistakes in modified difficulty level questions, higher difficulty level questions, but you're doing reasonably well in 500, 600 level questions, then that means you need to practice more modified based questions. Okay, and I'm saying this from the perspective of verbal. You need to do the same thing for quant. Same thing works there too. But this is the way you need to do your difficulty level analysis, and you can do that simultaneously while jotting down the topics. The third thing which I want to talk about is silly mistakes. Now what happens is when you're analyzing your mocks, I've seen people when they look at the solution, they categorize the mistakes as saying, hey, I made a silly mistake, so I made a calculation mistake, but they usually call it as silly mistakes. Now understand, if you categorize all your mistakes as silly mistakes, that's a problem. Ideally, you should be more specific while categorizing your mistakes. You should very clearly lay down the exact reason for making a mistake. So, did you make a calculation mistake? Then write down beside that question or make a note of it that in question number, say 1, I made a calculation mistake. And you keep on jotting down for each and every question where you made a calculation mistake. The solution is very simple. If you're making a calculation mistake, then you know that you need to double check and slow down while calculating. And if you see that you're making this mistake a number of times, then it will be easy for you to fix it. But if you categorize this as a silly mistake, you'd never know where you need to improve. The second thing is, the second kind of mistakes where people categorize silly mistakes is did not read question properly. So they'll come and tell me, hey, I didn't read the question properly, I made a silly mistake. No, if you don't read question properly and if you keep on making this mistake, then make a note of it. And whenever you start reading a question stem, say to yourself, hey, I'll jot down each and every information properly, and then only I'll move on to solve the question. Third kind of silly mistake is maybe you did not know the concept, and you might come up and say, I did not know the concept, I made a silly mistake. That's wrong. If you did not know the concept and because of which you got a question incorrect, you need to revise the concept. Lastly is if you ended up doing incomplete analysis. Now this I've seen a lot of people doing in quant, where they come up and say, I missed one of the cases while doing data sufficiency question. So if that is the case that it happened and you're categorizing it as a silly mistake, that's also wrong, because you won't improve. So if you really want to improve, you need to go back and analyze the cases that you're missing and ask yourself, why exactly are you missing these cases? Okay, so in short, what I'm trying to say is, don't categorize any mistake as silly mistake. Write down the exact reason for making the mistake. See a trend. You'll be able to find a trend if you jot down the reason for making a mistake, and you'll be able to figure out what's the major reason for making a mistake, and then you can fix it based on the suggestions that are given here. Okay. The last thing that you should focus on is the pacing. So whenever you're taking a mock, there's a good chance that you might have ended up spending a lot of time in the initial few questions and later on realize that you're running out of time. So what we usually suggest is, before starting the exam, just write down on a piece of paper how much time are you going to spend in each block. When I say block, ideally you should make blocks of 7 or 8 questions. And after every 7 to 8 questions, just check quickly whether the amount of time that you're expected to spend, did you spend that amount of time or not. If you spent more time, then you know that you need to pace up, and you need to pace up in the next block quickly. If you're spending less time, then you know that you have a buffer so you can be a bit more relaxed and spend more time while solving questions. So this is a very good strategy for pacing, improving your pacing. However, if you're still struggling, then that means that you might have not taken a lot of timed quizzes, and it is very important for you to start doing that. So take a lot of timed quizzes. Make sure that you get used to spending solving questions under 2 minutes, under 1 minute 50 seconds for verbal, 2 minutes for quant. So, and believe me, taking timed quizzes really help. Okay, so these are the 4 parameters. I'm summarizing it. Number 1 is that you should do a topic level, difficulty level analysis. You should also look at, you should make sure that the third thing that you should do is categorizing your mistakes properly. And once you categorize your mistakes properly, you'll be able to understand the trend in it and you'll be able to fix them easily. The third is your pacing and timing. You should understand whether you're pacing properly or not. If not, then you should be able to fix it. Now, the very last thing, a quick thing which I want to talk about is about GMATWhiz mocks. Now these are the 4 things that you need to do, and this might seem very overwhelming to do all the analysis yourself. So this is where GMATWhiz mocks comes into picture, and it is like an intelligent mock analysis system that we have created, which does all of these things automatically. You don't have to do any of these calculations. All of these suggestions are provided to you by our system. So let me just briefly show you how. Completed a mock. The moment you complete a mock, our intelligence system starts creating a recommendation, a personalized plan of action for you. So in this case, let's say the student took the exam, got a 640 with a V45, Q45 and a V32, the case that we're talking about. And we clearly tell you how far you are away from your target score, and we create a personalized plan of action for you. So you don't have to work on creating a plan of action for yourself. We clearly tell you how you need to improve. The best thing about this analysis is that we don't tell you to reach your target score in one shot. We slowly and carefully create a plan telling you where you need to work on. And you don't even have to do the analysis yourself. You don't have to go back and figure out which topics are you good at, which topics you need to practice more questions on, which topics you need to revise. The Whiz platform very clearly tells you what are the topics that you need to work on, where you just need to practice questions from a question bank, and what are the topics that you need to revise and practice both. So topics that maybe that you're not doing well at and there's a good scope of improvement, we very clearly tell you, hey, these are the areas that you haven't done well in, and these are the areas that you definitely need to revise and solidify. As far as the fourth part is concerned, whereas the pacing is concerned, we provide you with a pacing graph also, where you can see how you're pacing and how was your accuracy. So if you're taking more time per question, we'll be able to show you with the graph, and you'll also be able to see your accuracy also. So here, for example, I can see that you spent more time per question, but your accuracy was poor. That means the difficulty level might have increased and your performance did not go well. And we provide personalized suggestions also, so that you don't have to think and make draw those inferences on your own. We also show you a module level performance, where you can see a performance based on how you did well, how are you doing in the mock versus your course. So for example, the performance of this student was almost similar in the mock in the course, except for say number properties, where the performance was better in the course than in number properties in the actual mock. So all the feedback would be very clearly provided to you. We'll also let you know where there was missed opportunity, where you could have definitely improved, and very detailed feedback are given to you, so that you don't have to do any analysis at all. Just in case if you still want to deep dive, there's an option to deep dive. You can look at your PS performance, you can look at your DS performance, you can look at your verbal, SCC or RC performance individually. So if you're really interested in doing deep dive on your own, then you can definitely do deep dive on your own. However, all the feedback is automatically populated for you. You don't have to really do any inference. You need to read the recommendations and act upon it. If you really still want to do analysis on your own, you can do analysis on your own. You can look at the cumulative time. You can see if your pacing is good or not. You can look at which questions you spent more time. Each and every analysis is provided to you completely. Okay. So if you don't want to do the analysis on your own, and then I would suggest that you should definitely try out GMATWhiz mocks, where all the suggestions, all the analytics will be provided to you automatically, and I think you'll be able to understand really well where you need to improve on without putting in much effort. So a lot of time would also be saved, a lot of effort would be saved, and you can just focus on improving your score.